All right, all rise. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everybody to the July 28th meeting of the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners. Judging by the packed house, I assume this is going to be a good one. On my left is Commissioner Bill Rippon, representing District 1. On my right is Commissioner Kevin Cook, representing District 2. Good morning to both of you.
You don't have an agenda?
Hang on a second.
Here.
Anybody got an extra?
I got one.
Oh, here,
I got
she's
one.
got one here.
I
Chris got
grabbed the
one.
wrong sheet. I'll leave my vouchers in.
Okay.
Okay.
Adjourn.
That gives me an opportunity to clean up my desk a little bit.
Sorry, I grabbed the wrong stack.
So, totally fine. All right, Madam Clerk, first item, please.
First item is item 3, consent agenda.
We have 8 items on the consent agenda today. If there are no objections to any of them, I would move for approval.
Second.
A motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item 4, new business A, County Clerk number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Okay, under Building Maintenance, Central Mechanical Construction Company, Inc., $11,125.15 is for Helen Hawker AC replacement. Under Detention Facility, paid with ARPA and SLFRF funds. TEK 84 Inc., $146,500 is for a full body scanner. Under Facilities Management, paid with ARPA and SLFRF funds. Modern Business Interiors LLC, $140,293.03 is for furniture for 707 Quincy. Under Information Technology, paid with ARPA and SLFRF funds. SHI International Corporation, totaling $35,121.12 is for Microsoft Office license for remote worker equipment. Also, SHI International Corp., $43,137.50 is for Microsoft Azure Platform Services. Total vouchers as of July 27th, 2022, $2,280,711.70. There's no questions or comments. I would move for approval of the vouchers.
Second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Rippon and a second by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move for approval of the correction orders.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Item B, Human Resources number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C219-2022 with Bentech for developing, licensing, supporting, and hosting software application for employee benefits, enrollment, and administration at a total cost not to exceed $67,004.04 per year, payable from the insurance fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela Lewis with Human Resources. We're asking you to approve the 3-year contract with Bentech. Our current enrollment method requires us to fill out paperwork for each employee, then enter it into Central Square and 12 other vendor systems. Bentech has a personal import feature that eliminates data entry into the system and helps minimize discrepancies by automatically transmitting to our carriers and saving time. Bentech software integrates with Central Square, the system we use now, and is their preferred benefit vendor. The system is mobile-friendly and accessible 24/7, gives employees access to open enrollment, making the process 6 steps if you're making changes and 2 if you aren't making changes. And for many of us, that would mean a passive enrollment. We want the same thing year after year. BenTech provides an automatic system notification and announcements that tells you when a child would be rolling off, or you have other life event changes, and you would essentially get an email that notifies you of the benefits that you have selected. If approved, we'd like to have the system available for use at the end of October for our benefits enrollment. Unfortunately, I can't guarantee that quick of a turnaround time, but as soon as it's ready to go, we would start using it. HR has worked with IT and Audit Finance on this project, and like the clerk said, no cost will be passed on to the employees or the departments. This will come from the insurance fund. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Angela?
I have none. I'd move for approval.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item C, appraiser number 1, consider approval of request to hire a commercial appraiser 1 at step 11 of range 15 for a candidate with exceptional experience and qualifications with an annual salary including benefits of $82,670.91.
Good morning, Steve Bauman, County Appraiser. We were able to recruit an appraiser for this position that has very specific experience, what we're looking for. Exceptional experience, education, carries the Registered Master Appraiser designation. Therefore, we're going to have to start him above step 1, specifically step 11 in this case. So ask for your approval and try and answer any questions if you have any.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Steve, can you walk us through, is this a new position? Is this filling an existing position?
Sorry, yes, we are filling an existing position that's been open for several months. It's something that we had gotten approval for. I forgot to mention that I did run this through HR and Audit Finance, and I believe I have their blessing. And it's a position that we have budgeted for. 2023 is budgeted at step 1. We're asking for step 11, so I'm going to have to finagle 2023. 2022 is covered because the position's been open for a while, and we've had a couple other vacancies that have since been filled, but that amount has been accounted for.
So I understand the words mass, and I understand the words appraisal. Mass meaning a lot, and appraisal meaning to value.
Correct.
So are they valuing a lot? Are they valuing large properties? Are they valuing vast properties? What does a mass appraisal do?
Okay, well, mass appraiser is a general term for appraising a universe of properties. In this situation, we're looking for a person to appraise apartment complexes and multifamily, large multifamily complexes to start. There's going to be additional duties once that's achieved. So the Registered Master Appraiser is a designation that is obtained from the state of Kansas that just demonstrates the education and experience level. It's a tested designation, so a mass appraisal is something that is more of a method than anything else. So it's modeling groups of properties and appraising them. While we're appraising them individually, it's a group of properties that we're working with.
I don't have any other questions.
Any further questions? All right, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item D, Parks and Recreation number 1, consider authorization and execution of Tfi Family Services Agreement C 2020-2022, C 2021-2022, and C 222-2022, and resolution number 2022-60 for special permissions to host a blues festival at Ward Mead Historic Site on September 10th. A special event fee of $1,700 plus 10% gate revenue is to be deposited into the Building Maintenance Fund. The agreements and resolution meet requirements for use of the stage, alcohol permission, and ticket sales for a 21 years of age and older event.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Bell, Recreation Program Supervisor, Parks and Recreation. We are seeking approval for the attached contract between Shawnee County Parks and Recreation and TFI Family Services. This is the third year for the event. We lost a year because of COVID, but this event started in 2019. I have Sheila Carney with me from TFI Family, and she's going to talk a little bit about TFI and then the Blues Festival.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sheila Carney with TFI Family Services. Thank you, Commissioners. TFI is a nonprofit child welfare agency here in our community. So we serve kids in foster care and their families. And in order to do that, since we are a nonprofit, we do fundraising events to help fund this. Some of the services that we do have here in our community are case management. We do adoption. We have therapeutic. We actually have a 24/7 residential facility here in Topeka. And we do kids that are aging out of foster care. We have a program to help them here in Topeka as well. So along with that comes basic needs. And it can be anything from instruments, shoes, glasses, braces, things like that. So once a year we have our annual event. We call it the Blues, Brews, and Bites. It's a blues festival. We partner with the Topeka Blues Society, and they bring in some really awesome bands. We have it at Old Prairie Town, which has been the perfect venue for us to have this event, being that it's outdoors, and here in Topeka. This year, the Topeka Blues Society is bringing in some really great bands. We got Chris Lager, he's the headliner. Hamilton Loomis is one of the ones that a lot of folks are wanting to see him. He hasn't been around for 3 or 4 years, and then we have a couple other ones. So we bring in guests from Kansas City, Lawrence, Wichita, places like that here for the Blues Festival. I don't know if you have any questions, but we would love to have it there again. We've worked really well with all the staff there, with John and all the staff, so.
Any questions?
You, Commissioner Rippon, anything?
Nothing on this?
Sounds like a great event.
I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook.
Good, thank
Those
you.
in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You all
Hope
should
it's a
come
great
too.
event.
Thank you.
All right, next item, please.
Item E, Commission, number 1, reflect appointment of Nathan Rewerts to the Shawnee County Civil Service Board.
Okay. Gary Ross has resigned from the Shawnee County Civil Service Board, and after quite a tenure there, we appreciate all his work and efforts there. Nathan Rewerts, I think he's very qualified for this position. He's a local businessman, but he's been a member of Shawnee County District Fire District Number 4 since 2003. He's a member of the Task Force Number 2 Planning Team Manager for Technical Information Specialist and K-9 Handler. He's also a member of Task Force 1, deployable in the lower 48 states as a Planning Team Manager and Tech Information Specialist and K-9 Handler. He's also a member of one of the rural water districts, number 1 here in Shawnee County. So anyway, Nathan Rewerts, I think, would be a good candidate for this position. So I would move that we approve him for the Civil Service Board.
I'd second that.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. I also want to thank Gary Ross. I had the pleasure of serving on the Civil Service Board with Gary for quite a while, and he did a great job, and congratulations to him in his retirement. Hope he has a good time. Before we do our next item, could we go ahead and just move public comment and administrative communications up before we do the budget?
It's your.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that just to get those out of the way in case there's anybody that needs to go. And so let's go ahead and move public comment up first.
Okay. Item 5, public comment.
Is there any member of the public wishing to speak today? Seeing none, next item.
Number 6, administrative communication.
Any administrative communications that are not budget related? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on past that. So,
Okay.
next item, please.
Item E2, discussion of the proposed 2023 budget.
Betty Griner, Director of Administrative Services. And it is budget time again. So we will be discussing the 2023 budget. On the screen here is the worksheet that we will use. You can see in the left-hand column there, under each category are the individual departments, the category name, and then there's a total for the category. If you look on down here, there are also what we call allocations. There are organizations that we support each year, such as the ambulance, the animal shelter, conservation district, and such. On down towards the bottom, we have the debt service for our GO bonds as well as our certificates of participation. And then we also have the special liability fund. That is a fund that is funded by a tax levy. So, this column next to the category department column, that's the 2021 final budget. The next column is the 2022 final budget. Those are just for comparative purposes for you as commissioners. Then the next one in kind of the light orange color is the 2023 budget request. Those are the requests from the departments and the organizations. Then there is a column for your adjustments that you will make from the budget request. And then the last column would be the adjusted budget. And then at some point in time, that will become the approved budget. But for now, it would be the adjusted budget. That is the budget request plus or minus any commission adjustments. So that's what that last column will be. You will see up here at the total, up at the top there, right under that column heading, it says a total and a number. Right now, that number, and that is just the number from the bottom. I've put it up here at the top so that you can always see what that is. We did it a little differently last year, and hopefully this will be a little easier for you to see. This number will change as you make, as you make a change on this column, that will automatically change this total. And then this is an estimated mill levy amount based on that budget total. This is an estimate because the mill levy is actually set by the county clerk, and that is set based on the final valuation in November 1, is that correct? So we are working on estimated numbers at this point in time. So this is here, but that is not the final mill levy. That is my best estimate of what it would be based on that total budget amount. So I believe we are ready to start wherever you would like with the different, and you know, we will go through this process of you making adjustments to these budget requests, but nothing will be final until after the public hearing, and when you formally adopt the entire budget.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
we could start at special liability fund. I would move to approve $100,000, which is the amount listed.
I'll second that. The motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
at general expense, I would move to approve $2,535,400.
General expense.
It's under administrative services.
The first line of under administrative services.
What was your motion again?
To approve the listed amount.
Does most of that just reflect salary increases?
No, there are no salaries in general expenses.
that's right.
These are just the
thinking.
operating costs that, for the county in general. They include utilities, you know, that's one of the biggest ones, insurance, all of those items.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Mr. Chairman, under contingency, I would move to approve $1 million.
That is an increase over the last 2 years, and I know that we had cut that in the past.
We
Should
can make adjustments to it if we need to.
Well, that's what I was thinking, is I wonder if maybe we ought to just hold off on that until we get a little bit closer to the end
That's fine.
and see where we're at.
Then I withdraw. Capital outlay, we've already had our discussions. I would move for approval of $2,097,800.
Okay. I would second that. Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Mr. Chairman, under bond debt service and COP debt service, if we can clarify if that reflects the amount of debt that we would be paying in the amount of debt that we would have if we were to bond $20 million.
The bond debt service is the amount that we will have from existing debt, the $4,296,000. The COP debt service is the current amount that we have plus $1,800,000 for debt service on $20 million.
Then I would move to approve those two items listed under debt service.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Mr. Chairman, if we can go to elections. The elections budget, during the presentation, they had listed the software that they were needing to update in both their budget as well as listing it under capital outlay, or I'm sorry, under CIP.
It was requested out of their budget, but as part of the capital outlay process. CIP process, yes. So by approving that in the CIP process, you are basically saying you will fund it in their budget.
Okay. So
Now, whether, that's up to you, though, whether they have to absorb that or whether you add it onto it.
Okay.
Generally, it would be implied, I guess I would say, that if you, since you approved it as part of the CIP, that you would add it to their budget.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a duplication.
No.
And so their current budget would reflect the,
Their current budget request has that included in it.
okay. Thank you for that clarification. Can we move to approve the coroner, since that is by contract? It's a motion.
If I can find it on here.
It's
There we
under
go.
public health, 611,000.
I would second that.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
And as he said, the increase in that one is by the terms of the contract.
And I would move to approve the ambulance, since that is also by contract.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook. I'll second. Motion been seconded by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye.
Ambulance.
I'm sorry, the ambulance, I will say that, yes, that is under contract, but the contract runs through the end of '22.
Right.
Those opposed? Motion passes 3-0. I would make a motion that we approve the animal shelter request for $145,000. They've been requesting that increase for a few years, and we've never given it to them. And I know it is based on the number of animals that they bring in from outside of the city limits, and so we probably ought to go ahead and increase that a little bit. So I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next item. Well, I guess next item. It's up to you.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to address the Fair Association,
Okay?
and then I would move to approve the request that was listed.
For the 80,000?
That's under recreation.
Yeah, 80,000 is the correct request.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
I would move to approve the Extension Council budget listed. That's under public health.
Of $610,100.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. I'll make a motion that we approve Health Access's request for $110,000.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Chair, I would move that we approve mental health for TARC. TARC
Okay,
funding.
so
The
that's
TARP for
the,
$999,130.
Yes.
And that is an increase of $3,000, and so I would join that request. Second.
okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
I would move that we approve the request for community resources. They administer the grants through the seniors and for community social service grants, and so their requested increase was $5,000.
I'll second that. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. I make a motion that we approve the $15,000 for drug court. That's under law enforcement. No increase over last year.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
I would move that we approve the request for the counselor's office.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
I would move that we approve the request for emergency management.
And that's the request for $419,825.
Yes. That's an increase of $9,762.
Over flat budget.
Over the flat. Thank you.
It's an increase of 9%.
9% increase over
9%
last
over
year.
last year's.
You want to hold off on that one?
Maybe we should.
Okay.
Just so we get a little further to the weeds here.
Motion dies for lack of a second.
I would move we approve the request for the district courts.
I'll second that. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Go ahead.
I would move that we approve the appraiser's budget.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
I would move we approve the planning department.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
I would move we approve the register of deeds.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. I don't think we've done the Conservation District yet. so
We have not.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Conservation District.
Second.
That's 52,000. Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
At this time, I would move that we move to increase the Vallejo budget by $500,000. They had requested an increase of $750,000.
So let's talk about this for a minute. My understanding is that this large of an increase is a direct result of some kind of a change in Medicaid reimbursement through the state of Kansas. Is that accurate to say?
Bill Persinger is here if you'd
Yeah.
like.
Bill, would you speak to that?
Morning, Commissioners, staff. Bill Persinger, Chief Executive at Vallejo Behavioral Health Care. You know, we are set for changes coming in Medicaid. Those should not start, though, till the middle of next year. In the meantime, the Medicaid budgets tend to come in lower and lower every year due to managed care. And like every other entity, our costs are going up. A lot of the requests for an increase is based on increased cost of hiring, benefits, providing services, keeping things going. So it, you know, pretty much just to keep up and, you know, take care of current and rising costs. But we do hope that at some point, probably after about 18 months from today or so, we'll start, you know, getting a nice increase in the Medicaid. So if everything else would hold the same, you know, we ought to be doing better. And so we do anticipate that once we get recognized by the federal government, paid at cost like, you know, other worthwhile entities, hospitals, GraceMed and others, that our situation with Medicaid would improve. Those dollars may start to increase next July 1 if everything stays on track the way it's supposed to. And then, of course, over time, over a year or so, then we should see those Medicaid revenues rise. So we're hoping for a little higher tide starting in a year and then over the next 18 months or so from there.
Wasn't there a hope that that was going to happen this year?
There was, Commissioner. There was, we had the opportunity to go July 1 of this year, but we would have had to use our 2020 calendar audit. And we just have gotten our 2021 calendar audit approved and adopted. I think it's been turned over to Audit and Finance. And so what happens basically is that the government looks at your cost and then determines a daily rate for Medicaid. So if our 2020 costs were here and our 2021 costs were here, then we'd stand to do better, with using the most recent audit. And so there just isn't time to sit down with it. There's kind of a several months long process once your audit is approved and you know what that cost is. Then you go through a several months process of negotiating and meeting with budget director at the state and some other folks and approval from KDHE and KDADS. It takes a while. So there wasn't any way really to get the 2021 budgets locked in. I think that Kathy Moser, the Chief Executive at Family Services and Guidance, would concur. There was originally some hope of going this fall, but I think state budget concerns being what they were, they've asked I think 9 of us mental health centers, including Family Services and Guidance, to wait till next July. We're like, I think if we can keep everything moving forward that way, that would be okay. In an ideal world, we'd have gone, 26 days ago, 27 days ago. But so,
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
The reason I had increased, the requested amount was $750,000. This is a pretty significant increase over what we had done by last year and the year before of $2 million. Mental health in Shawnee County has hit a critical point in retention of their employees and ability to hire employees. And I think that our mental health services, we're seeing the same thing that's across all industries with hiring and retention and being able to attract new employees. Mental health is in the same spot that Department of Corrections was at. And when we look at how much money has been increased to the Department of Corrections in such a short period of time, it is such a critical resource to the overall health and safety of our community. That being said, I would want this to be a one-time, next year would be going back because it would be hopefully supplemented by the opioid settlement funds that we see coming in. It would be supplemented by some changes at federal and state legislature. And so we would not look at this as being a continuing, but rather a one-time increase.
Well, I don't disagree with any of those statements. I mean, yeah, mental health is certainly a very critical piece of our community. I mean, obviously, Vallejo Family Service and Guidance Center are very important entities, not only just for mental health, but for substance abuse treatment as well. And I think the Sheriff's Department and the TPD would probably agree that, you know, we need that substance abuse treatment, as well as Department of Corrections as well. I mean, they're, a good portion of the people there are intoxicated or addicted. And so I would agree, though, that this should be one-time fund, the increase, that is. It'd be nice to see a little bit more help from other governmental entities as well. You know, I feel like Shawnee County has been very supportive over the years.
Yes, sir.
And it would appear we still have a desire to do so, but we'd like to see some other places step up a little bit more as well.
Commissioner, I might comment very quickly. We are pursuing the state and federal government for grants, both us, Family Service and Guidance, and Breakthrough House, and we're hopeful there that you know, there will be increases coming, or we won't know about our federal grants until, gosh, later this fall or so. But we're sure looking for every dollar we can. I know that Kathy and I would agree. We come in here, and if we can't find a dollar somewhere else, we'll come here and ask you all to consider being the payer of last resort. And having said that, you know, you're our oldest customer, and we're here to serve, and, you know, we'll do so faithfully year after year.
And then again, also like Commissioner Cook mentioned, we're hoping the opioid settlement money would come in at some point. We don't know how much that's going to be, but hopefully it's enough to help out in a significant way.
There's a number of complex funding streams there, and over maybe 8 or 10 years, but there's hope there too. Commissioner, thank you for your comment.
I'll go ahead and second the motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays, for $2.5 million on that budget. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I would move to approve Audit Finance's request, noting that that is salary-driven.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
I would move to approve the county clerk.
Second.
Okay, and those increases, I believe were driven primarily by the hiring
Yeah, I
of,
have no increases
Oh.
except the salary.
what am I looking at here? Oh, okay, just salary. Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
I believe that the Human Resources Department is in the same situation, that their increase is driven by salary increase. And I see Angela nodding in approval. So I would move to approve Human Resources.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
I assume the same applies for the treasurers, mostly driven by
Yeah.
salary. Yes,
And I-
In the back, yes.
yes.
Okay.
I would move for approval of the treasurers.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Can we review the facility management? I know that Nelda has put quite a bit into facility and changing around what we're doing here. And so if Ms. Henning would be able to talk a little bit about some of the changes they want to make there.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nelda Henning, Director of Facilities Management. Some of the changes to facilities was the onset of in-house custodial. Previous to this year, It was a contract, and each department that we serve as custodial paid into that contract. With it being in-house now, I'm carrying the burden for all of the salaries and supplies associated with custodial. So that is part of what you're seeing there. The other part is that we have talked many times over the past year, there has been a number of issues developed in the courthouse from lack of maintenance incurring, and we've taken a brunt of that this year, and I've covered most of that through the fact that I had open positions. And I do not want to continue to do that. I really need to fill those positions. I have one maintenance tech that is just doing an awesome job, but he's getting run ragged because of all the facilities we cover. And I need to get those positions filled and be more aggressive in that process. So the other part of my budget request was to have the money in the facilities budget to do the emergency maintenance that needs to be done as it occurs, and not rely on having to come to you for contingency or other funds to cover those. So that was the just behind my budget at this point.
So with the increase for the additional staff needed to be able to cover that, that's where this increase is coming from?
It's basically, it's taking I've been using the money for my salaries to cover the incidentals that have come across, or the emergency that have come across this past year. And I'm wanting to use that money to pay staff, not to cover emergency needs. And at the end of last year, I think I was down to within a few $100s of my budget that was established last year. And I mean, I've poured everything into covering deferred maintenance in these buildings.
I would move for approval.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Cook, a second by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. I'd make a motion to approve Safe Streets request for $18,000.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
I would move to approve the weed department.
Did that mainly reflect salaries?
It's
Or was there something else? There was a-
1,800 over a flat budget, so most of it, all but 1,800 would be
Okay.
salaries.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Is Mark Price here? Mr. Chairman, if we could have Mark talk about the increase of the IT department of $348,000 and kind of where that's based in.
Okay.
Let me find that spot. Morning, Commissioners. Mark Price, Information Technology. A majority of that increase, I believe, is about 160,000 was coming from a security software we implemented at the beginning of this year, and also two-factor authentication. Then there was another 165,000, which was an item that was moved from CIP into my budget. That was for Nutanix nodes. That was something that was annually coming out of CIP, so Betty requested we move that into our budget to cover, or just to have it come out of the budget rather than CIP.
Was that for the fiber? Is that what that was?
No, this was for
Switches?
virtualization.
Yeah, this item, I requested it not be a CIP item, that it be transferred to his budget, because this is something that is really more of an operational cost. It's something that we're gonna have to have every single year. This is the storage, data storage, is that right?
Well, it comprises everything. It's storage, it's our hyper-converged infrastructure, so the compute for the servers, the actual storage for the servers, adding redundancy, so if one of the nodes goes down, the other nodes pick up the load. We have a set up in a secondary DR center, so if it fails, if for some reason our main server farm goes down, we can actually spin stuff up at the DR site. We run basically all the county servers, 911, the jail, on that system.
The majority of your increase falls in two areas: contractual services, which is software that we've already committed to for internet security, and then for this Nutanix platform, the backup and additional nodes.
Correct.
So that's really where the two bulk increases are at.
Right,
Yes.
and since this, especially the one that we were talking about that came from capital outlay, you know, it used to be that you would buy something for that. You know, you probably remember when we bought the V block. It used to be something that was more of a purchase. Now it's not. Now it's more of an every year expense of just an operational expense. And operational expenses should, you know, really be part of the budget rather than, it's no longer a capital item like it used to be. So.
When we moved away from the V block, which was a $1.5 million system, we looked at Nutanix because it did allow for the incremental upgrades rather than having to go buy that huge purchase every 5-6 years. It allows us to do small incremental upgrades, continually increasing storage, increasing compute as a operational cost rather than these items are going out of warranty, going out of support. We now have to buy a whole new system and put it in place. And for the software, you're right, that's something we've committed to. If it doesn't get funded, it would just be something we would not have anymore. But particularly the security software, it does cover us 24/7, 365 days a year. And we've had detections in the middle of the night on our 24-hour operations, and I have not had a single user actually know that it happened. Whether they click on a website or open an email, this system identifies it. There's an actual person on the other end that evaluates what happened, what the threat is, and then they actually remediate the threat. We have not had to do this. They can actually reboot the computer if necessary and isolate it from the network if it were to be something that bad.
Mark, I think I speak for all county employees. We find the internet security annoying.
Yes.
But when we look at outside counties, when we look at ransomware, when we look at what would happen and how vulnerable our data is, I think it's a necessary part of our modern society. So the only thing that is a variable here, out of your entire budget, the only thing that's really up for debate is the Nutanix nodes. And that was really not that debatable because we moved it from CIP to this, because it's an ongoing, recurring expense.
Correct.
There was one other thing, though, under membership dues and subscriptions, that jumped quite a bit this year as well. Um,
Yeah, that looks like it jumped about $8,000. Let me just. So, just one particular item that accounted for a lot of that is an item called browser stack, and that is something we use to identify vulnerabilities in our code. So as we're writing code, if the systems that are used to code, if there's an identified threat, this notifies us of it. We would, we could do without this. What it would mean is instead of my programmers and developers being able to go to one system, say, here's what we're using, it validates it and says, here's what you need to look out for, here's the updates you need to do, now your software's more secure. They would have to go through each one of the softwares, look at what the updates have been, look at what changes have been made, so then we could go through and secure the software. It saves my developers time, and it went from $2,500 last year to $6,000 this year. So I know that's not the full 5,000, but that was a major piece of it. Let's see.
Yeah.
Then
Just wonder if
then we
that
had
should be
another
under
one.
Subscriptions and.
Betty, the Commissioner Rippon had a question about whether or not that would be under subscriptions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that something to be under membership dues,
Seems
subscriptions?
like it'd be more under
Well,
contractual services.
some of these companies,
More of a
it's-
contractual.
some of these companies call it a subscription. And so if it's something that the invoice comes and the invoice is named as, they call it a subscription because you have to really renew it each year. So that's why, and some of these are really hard to know where they fall. Because the company may call it a subscription. I may say, well, no, that's really a license. And it's really hard to distinguish those and, so a lot of times it's just based on what the company calls it.
I'll move to approve the IT budget as requested.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Let's go up to the Stormont Vale Event Center. There's two items here. Operating budget, which had gone up some, but then also the $250,000 for the owner's building expenses, something we've not done in the past, but we've talked about it.
That is because we did have other funds that had become available when we changed management companies. And so we had set that money aside and had been using that money for this. This is something for expenses that come about as for us as the owner of the building. And that's why we have not had it in the past, because we've been using those funds. Those funds are coming to an end. So that's why it is there.
So Betty, as part of the CIP budget, we talked about some of the improvements to Manor Conference Center and things that are needed. We talked about utility vehicle. Are those expenses that could potentially come out of this fund?
This is generally for just the Stormont Vale Event Center. That's what it has been in the past. It has not included Manor, because Manor is under a different lease and different management. So in the past, this has just been, now you can, as commission, you can change it to not be just Stormont Vale Event Center. It could just be an owner building expense fund. But why this is designated there as separately, because it is just for the Stormont Vale Event Center and for that facility.
Do we have a goal of what we'd like this fund to get to eventually?
Well, generally, we have funded just what we felt like we needed for that year. It is not one that has been able to grow.
Okay.
We generally use everything that's allocated. Now, hopefully, that will be much different since we have a renovated facility now. So hopefully, it is set aside in a separate job ledger. So it could grow if we don't use it all. So hopefully in the future, maybe that will happen.
Any further questions on either of those items? Any other items we'd like to talk about?
We talk about the Department of Corrections. I know that it's an increase of 493,000. But if we could talk about why and where that's coming from.
And I will remind you, too, that the budget request from the Department of Corrections decreased because during the budget hearings, we talked about the number of vacant positions that they were likely to fill. And so they did take 20 vacant positions out of their budget because in a perfect world, those would be filled, but in a realistic world, those were probably not going to be filled. So it was decreased substantially by that. Did you have any questions for Brian Cole?
So originally it was at 30,569,255, and then that was then reduced to 29,257,275.
Yes. And I will also just mention to you that we still do not have a set amount for the medical contract that is in the process of being negotiated, right? I think we're in the negotiation stage on that, so we do not have a set amount on that as of yet. What they used for the budget was just the average of the 3 bids that they had received. Is that all correct? If I might make a suggestion, you were looking at the departments where the only increases were wage-related. The Board of County Commissioners is one of those departments also that you have not addressed yet.
Go back to emergency management. And I know that we had started to discuss emergency management and then wanted to hold off. Commissioner Rippon, did you have some questions about this increase?
No, I imagine the lion's share of that's salaries.
All but $9,762.
Good morning, Commissioners. Some of that is fuel costs that increased. We're also trying to turn some of our sirens into solar so we can save costs going in the future. And the rest of it is, or the $1,500 is for tires for regional equipment, specifically the comfort trailer, which we've used in many situations here locally. So they're pretty much direct costs for those issues or items.
I'll move for approval of emergency management.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Going back to corrections, could we talk about community corrections? I think I understand the large increase, but it kind of jumps off the page, and so I'd like to maybe get a little bit of an explanation on that publicly here.
Ryan Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. For community corrections, a lot of it has to do with the statutory requirement when it comes to meeting the grant funds that we get from the Kansas Department of Corrections. With this request, we would still be about 50% of what they do provide us. We work with Jim Crowell in his office very closely. A lot of this has to do with us staying up with the programs to reduce recidivism, to address substance abuse, mental health issues, and so a lot of this allows us to add on. The other thing is that we no longer have second judicial district. And so when we took those folks back in under the third judicial district, we were using second judicial district funds to pay for their salaries. We no longer are. So that has to do with the salary increases for, that can sound a little confusing, but those people that we had established in second judicial district are now under the third judicial district. So for the added programs to meet the Kansas statutory requirement, and that now we are having to cover for those staff because they all are to do the caseload in Shawnee County. So those are all staff-related and statutory requirement. Yes.
So Brian, do we need all of the people that were doing the second district still?
We are not, no.
Okay.
No, we're done with them. Now, it's funny that they have called us to look at that again because now that they've seen they understand the reasoning that we asked for additional funds from them years ago, and so we are no longer dealing with the second judicial district. Those 2 staff members or 3 staff are now put back into our programs, and we have to fund those through Shawnee County now. So that was a lot of it, salaries and the statutory.
I guess the question, though, Commissioner Mays, I think you were asking is, are we reducing the overall staff number because we're not covering the second judicial?
Because as the caseload has gone down because of that, the staffing hasn't though?
No. Just for Shawnee County, we have the largest caseload in Kansas. So all that did was help us spread out the caseload that we're currently doing among the staff. No staff increase, total to the whole department, but these people that have come in, instead of somebody having 85, now they only have 70. So that allowed us to spread out a more reasonable, effective caseload within Shawnee County. But yes, we are the highest, if not the highest, we're second in the caseload in Shawnee County.
Any other questions on that item? All right, thanks, Ryan.
Betty, is Public Works an actual decrease over a flat budget once you adjust for salary?
No, it is not. All of their increases is salary related.
Okay. But there's no additional increase other than salaries?
No.
That's correct.
I would move for approval of the Public Works budget.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
And then solid waste is not actually included because they're an enterprise fund.
That's correct. They're user fee funded only. There is no county subsidy to them at all.
Can we take a look at the elections?
Yep.
And I'll remind you that the elections is on a different cycle. So if you're comparing budgets, rather than comparing them to the 22 budget, normally you would compare them to the 21 budget because they're more on a 2/4 year cycle than on a every year cycle, because every other year this year may be an anomaly because of the primary being such a large election, but normally they are kind of on a 2-year or a 4-year cycle. So you normally would compare them to 2021.
So, Betty, a couple of things that they've added. They added a item in their budget for $50,000 for building maintenance. And this is new for their department. And there's things that I think that are reoccurring. My understanding is they wanted to build basically a fund, a maintenance fund.
As I understand it, yes, they are under facilities maintenance, so facilities maintenance does go out and help with their items, but I will let him address this.
Good morning. Actually, I guess it's good afternoon, Commissioners. Jake Fisher, Shawnee County Elections. Yes, it's come to my attention that since the Elections Office moved to this facility, there has not been a line item in there for any just general maintenance on the building. We have seen here recently with the water leak that we had back in May, that's kind of brought that issue to a head. We have several things that are in need of repair, and it's, I thought that this would be the best time as any to have the discussion about putting a line item in there so that we can take care of the maintenance of this facility. Because right now, anything that needs to be done, if it's not covered by facilities maintenance, then we are essentially doing that on our own.
So if the elevator goes out, that falls under your budget.
That's my understanding, yes. I mean, we have in our budget for the yearly inspection and things like that, but, I mean, right now, for example, we have a concrete issue on into the entrance into our parking lot that it's gonna need to be replaced. We've gotten bids previously, but we don't have the money to do it.
Would that be part of the parking lot capital outlay?
Parking lots certainly could be, roofs certainly could be, but I also, say the elevator goes down or something like that. Anything that is unexpected and unbudgeted is eligible for contingency funds, and that is one of the reasons we have contingency funds. So there is an avenue for those things that are completely unexpected, unbudgeted.
So the Elections Office has the sewer issue that seems to come up about every year, where we have to have it jetted out for the sewer
Thought we
line.
had that
Well, I mean, but
redone.
I'm not sure. I mean, I think that it's scheduled to be redone, but if it was,
Oh.
but previously, every year we were doing expenses, those would no longer be then unknown, right?
Yeah, if it's something every year. Now, I don't know exactly, in this case, if this is something that you want to look at, then the question is this just a line item in their budget, or is this something that we set up a maintenance fund for them? And if they have unusual things come up, then they each year they would transfer money to that fund. That's all it could be used for. And then, hopefully it could build up over time. If on those years it's not used, we could build up.
And I think that's where they were coming from for this request, just so that they had something to draw from rather than their budget for
Okay.
the elections.
I just wanted to point out that we do have contingency for those items that are unexpected.
Right.
If I may, Commissioner, the sewer issue, there was work done on the sewer I want to say that was done last fall. I don't want to jinx the office by saying we have not had any problems so far, but I've already just said it. We believe right now the problem is remedied, but I will not sit here and say for 100% certain that that is or has been remedied, but we have not had any problems yet as of noon on today's date.
So if we were to, Betty, how do we treat the health department with the J.P. Lewis bill? They're managing 3 different
Basically the
buildings.
same thing. You know, a lot of it falls under the facilities management, if facilities can help with those things. Then if it's something that they, again, contingency is available to them for those items. Those that they feel like that are routine maintenance, then it's out of their
But does
their
the health
budget.
department have a revolving fund or a set fund that they have for
No, they do
building?
not.
What about out at the North Annex with the appraiser, the planning, solid waste?
No, there again, that's a county building, so it's just falls within facilities. The utilities, of course, are all spent, you know, out of general expenses. Repairs, normal repairs would come out of either facilities. It wouldn't hit any individual department.
I guess where I'm trying, is there a difference in how we look at facility items for the North Annex versus the elections? Does it come out of a different
Well,
funding source?
The North Annex does not have one department. So, of course, it's handled just like the courthouse would be handled, because there's multiple departments out there. In the case of a department having the whole building, you know, in some respects, most of it is pretty much covered by facilities in the same way it would be the annex or the courthouse. There are some items, say, utilities for those buildings, routine operating costs for those buildings, that I like to have included in their budget, because I think, number one, they can evaluate things more, and I think it makes them more cost conscious if it has to come out of their budget. Like the courthouse that has multiple departments, we can't do that. The annex where we have multiple departments, we can't do that. But it's also, you know, like say, I think routine operating costs of the building is generally handled within that department's budget, because I think it does make them more cost conscious.
So if we were to set up a revolving fund, and let's say it was funded for $25,000, how would that be then, where would we set that up at? Or
You actually just did that in December of last year. There was a request for $25,000 to be set aside for some interior walls that needed to be repaired. And so it's in a special fund, a project fund, and then the elections office is able to expend that money as they need. And that money, as of today, I'm not seeing any money of that has been spent yet.
I think they built the wall.
They have not charged it against that then.
Okay.
Or you've not paid it?
Yeah, it's still there.
I'm fairly certain that's been paid. That was completed here probably 5 or 6 months ago, and I think I'd have somebody showing up at my door if it hadn't been
Well, it
paid.
may have come out of your budget. It did not come out of that project.
Because that's what we said, that was actually money that was remaining in our 2021 budget. We'd had some savings in overtime and things such as that, and so, you know, that's where that project fund came from. It was money that was actually budgeted in
So
21.
is there already then money, if it came out of the 2021 budget, is there money already set up in a revolving fund, and how much?
It's $25,000 as of today.
It's $25,000. Now, they can look back and see where they paid this out of and ask it to be paid out of where it was actually supposed to be paid
So
out of. But
maybe we need to clarify, there may already be a fund set up for $25,000 for the elections office. If we can maybe kind of clarify where that,
But that that fund at that point in time was designated for that wall repair. So that would need to be
Amended.
either the purpose of that fund needs to be changed, or you could use that same fund and rename it, however you choose.
So some of the questions that you're asking kind of lead to what I'm seeing is sort of a precedent. So we're looking at a separate building fund for elections and a separate building fund for Stormont Vale Event Center, which I understand Stormont Vale Event Center is a little different because it's our biggest, most expensive building that we own, and
Well, and it.
No, that would be Department of Corrections.
oh,
Well, and part of it was because it's managed by someone other than us. So that's kind of how we separate those duties. There are, you know, the repairs for that, they have the normal, ordinary, recurring, small maintenance items come out of their operating fund. These are more for ones that would be the owner's responsibility. So Stormont Vale Event Center is a little different situation because, you know, we don't have county employees in there. We don't have county employees running it. You know, we have a management company that we've contracted with.
Just to add some clarity to that, you know, last year was the very first year that we requested any of those capital funds because we had that remaining surplus from the prior management agreement that extended from 2017 all the way through, for the vast majority, all the way through 2021 with a healthy budget in that account. We've utilized that account over the past number of years for capital projects, for items that need addressed or that maybe did not get touched or addressed in the renovation. To kind of circle back full circle to some of your questions, I think in regards to the service utility vehicles and the golf carts, it's my understanding that, you know, those capital projects would meet the requirement for capital funds and potentially could be used out of that account. There are other items that we would like to address out of that account as well, things like repair to the basketball and playing court surface, and the resurfacing of that surface, things that would bring revenue to the building, and or have a life that extends beyond the 5 years for the capital requirement.
hey, Kellen, just while you're up there, the basketball court that you mentioned, how old is the one that we have now?
I do not know exactly how old that court is. It has been there for a significant period of time. I would be willing to bet that it's from the 90s. It does need some repair, and it certainly needs a resurfacing. There are the prior building name logos on that court, prior management company, which we would remove those logos and just brand it towards the facility name and towards Shawnee County itself. That surface would also allow us to expand upon some of the booking ability that we're able to do on the sport court surface events like KSHA, basketball, NAIA, NCAA, JUCO type basketball, volleyball tournaments. We're actually using it again this year for the first time for varsity cheerleading competitions, which is the KSHA State High School Cheer and Dance competitions. They'll be doing that on top of the basketball court surface. So we do use it a significant amount of time and for a pretty large number of events throughout the year. But having that resurface certainly gives us the ability to, you know, gain a little bit more attraction for additional events as well.
Okay. Anything else for Kellen while we got him up there? All right, thank you.
Let me make a correction, because last month we did pay that bill out of that job ledger. So I did do some quick looking. That job ledger still exists, so we can reuse it if we rename it. So, but that's how it would work, is we have a county building fund that we then have specific jobs set up, job ledgers set up inside. And those are open to each of the departments who own that job ledger.
How much is left in it?
$24.
Glad we could work that out.
Yeah.
This is Jim Krause, Shawnee County Counselor. I want to just add to the clarifications. We think of Stormontville Event Center, we think of Land and Arena, but our management company manages Land and Arena, Exhibition Hall, Domer, Heritage Hall, and Ag Hall. So when you're talking about repairs and expenses, it isn't just the shiny new facility that we drive by, it also includes those other facilities.
The fire station and Maynard Conference Center fall under facilities?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, they are not part of Stormont Event Center.
We've been going for a little over an hour now. We want to keep going, we want to take a break, we want to,
Let's take a 5-minute break and just stretch our legs a little minute. Yes, I think that Angela would have shaken her head at me many times had she been able to.
yeah. She's
So.
probably wanting us to stand up. Okay, let's just take a 5-minute recess. We'll be back at 12:27.
chance to think about it. With these buildings that we have that have reoccurring or unanticipated problems, let me differentiate. Are buildings that have these issues that will come up with them, is it best to set up a revolving fund that we would draw from? Or should we have these continue to stay under each department?
I hate to set up something for each department, but as with, I mean, if it's normal, what I call operating expenses for that building, then I think it needs to be within their budget. But I don't know that at this point in time, I know what that would be for the elections office. I don't, anything that is extraordinary for that year is better to pay out of contingency or something like that, so it's not built into their budget every year. You know what I mean? If you have the same way we set up the medical things for, the medical fund for the DOC. You don't want a high year to then set the budget every year going forward. But you also have to be able to pay that. So anything that is normal, and I do think that there needs to be some conversations between facilities and elections office, and I think that is something they're in the works of doing, to talk about who covers what and how that happens and how that works.
So should we be looking at Stormont Vale and the elections as the same type of, or should we look at them as
I don't
different?
believe so. I think they're different. I think Stormont Vale Event Center is very different because it's a managed facility, and it's not a normal department of the county. So that's why I think it is different.
Well, and let's not forget that we just increased the budget for facilities management as well.
Yes.
Which is to cover this type of thing.
Right.
I mean, are we being redundant by doing this?
Well,
Because it would seem so.
there again, I think we need to have that conversation between the two of them. I would suggest that you table the elections office budget until we can kind of have some conversations between them as to what can be covered by facilities and what would need to be covered by elections.
Okay. Let's do that.
Yeah. Can you guys get together, Nelda and Andrew and Jake?
So one of the large ones that we have not talked about yet is Parks and Recreation. And their increase and where that's coming from outside of salaries.
About 228,000 is an additional increase over salary increases.
And then I believe we had an increase of 190,000 that was contractual services with utilities, fuel, and other contractual types of services. Is that?
Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. Yes, Commissioner, that is correct on that number. 190,000, a little over. That was for contractual services, and then when I look in here, I have some notes. So we've started using bus transportation again, which we hadn't been using previously, but really, the majority of this is the increased cost of our contracts with our current vendors. Their costs are going up, as is everybody else's. So making changes on those, we added an agreement for Adventure Cove, our aquatics instructor contracts. We raised the wages for those, and then we added a restroom cleaning contract as well.
There was an increase in equipment upgrades under your tools and equipment for 2023.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking about tools and equipment?
Yes.
Right, so we had reduced that for this year. 2 years ago, that was up around 33,000, so, yeah, we have asked for an increase there. I guess still under what we had spent in 2021.
Commissioner Rippon, did you have any questions?
Not yet. Did you say that 194 was for contractual
Yes, yes.
and salaries was what amount?
Salaries was considerably more than that. I mean, in our MSA ones, we were up around $314,000 total.
That's what I wrote down during the budget hearing, was personnel costs increased $314,235.
So,
Tim, it looks like your water bill, underwater, it looks like you guys are $90,000 over budget this year on water. Is that just due to a rate increase or consumption?
Honestly, I don't think I can answer that. I know we're over. I know we've asked for more. I mean, it's been a hot summer, but I assume that's rates. I don't think that we're watering anything any more than we normally would, other than the fact that, we haven't had a lot of rain this
I think
year.
we had to drain and refill a pool last week, but
Well, that didn't help, but that's probably not reflected on here yet.
any other questions for Parks and Rec?
I think I'm ready to make a motion to approve the request
Without any modifications?
at this time.
I'll second that. Got a motion by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. I'll make a motion that we approve the Stormont Event Center operating budget.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Just to be clear, that doesn't include the owner building expense of $250,000. I feel like we still got more discussion on that. Any other items we want to talk about today?
I think we're
You've talked about most of the outside organizations other than the service programs for the elderly and the social service grants. Don't know if you want to discuss those.
Do we want to talk about those grants?
Well, the ones we have left that we've not addressed are Community Corrections, Department of Corrections, District Attorney, Sheriff, Stormontville Event Center owner building expense, the Health Department, Social Service grants, the Board of County Commissioners, and elections. So we're down to the final, and contingency.
Well, in terms of budget items, that's not a huge number. In terms of total dollars, that's a pretty big
Yes.
portion of the budget still left to go.
Yes.
And most of those are ones that are asking for increases.
Yeah.
I presume that we wanted to leave the Board of County Commissioners till the end.
Well, that is one that is not asking for
Yeah, I mean,
an
we're not
increase
asking.
other than salary or wage increases.
Move to approve the Board of County Commissioners then.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Mays. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Any further discussion?
Right now, your estimated mill levy would be 50.798, so about 0.2 under last year.
Now, as far as returning to discussion,
I would assume you would not next week because you will just have two commissioners here. I would assume you would not on the 15th because well, there will be no meeting on the 15th because you'll be canvassing. The 18th will be the public hearing for the Gage Park Improvement Authority. So that will be a busy meeting. That doesn't mean that we can't also have budget discussions. And then the 22nd is the public hearing at 5:30 in the evening. So you would also have that meeting.
so either we continue today or we come back on the 18th.
Would
Or the 22nd.
Would August 8th not be even an available date to talk? Are you going to be back by then?
I will be back on the 8th.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood that. I thought you were gone all week.
Well, let me make sure.
Well, 8th is a Monday.
Sure.
I thought you were gone the
Oh, wait,
1st.
8th is,
That's July.
yes,
So
that's right.
I think
I will be back.
Monday, the 8th, I think
I
will
will
be
be
our
here
next.
on the 8th.
So that's,
Could go on the 8th.
Okay. So we would have
He
the
removed the
8th.
rest of July.
So we would have the 8th and I'm sorry, we'd have the 8th and the 11th then.
And I won't,
Well
I'm not
done.
going to be here on the 11th,
Okay,
actually.
so we would have the 8th.
And you'd have the date, the meeting.
The 22nd.
The meeting of the, on the date of meeting of the, during the day.
Yes, the
20th.
22nd, the commission
But
meeting, because the
hearing that
public
night.
hearing is not till 5:30 that evening.
And budget hearing is just not approval. I mean, they can have that. Still discussion after, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so we could have the next discussion on the 8th.
Okay. So, we want to continue on or table it for now?
I think we probably have gotten about as far as we need to today. And then I think we're gonna, plan for another long meeting on the 8th, because it seems like that's gonna be our only opportunity for a while. We've got a week and a half or so to try and get as many questions as we can done with some of these department heads and things to make sure that we're all prepared going into the meeting. So I think that'll be it for the budget discussion today. And then I assume you're going to email us the updated copy of this sometime soon, so. All right. Before we move on to executive session, when we talked about administrative communications, I didn't ask either of you if you had anything you'd like to say. So, Commissioner Rippon?
Let you talk about the Walmart.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I just enjoying the cooler weather.
Commissioner Cook?
Don't we all love budgets?
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Well, so the highlight of my day so far was not the budget discussion. It was the Walmart one-year celebration this morning of the fulfillment center. They invited all of us, along with representatives from the state of Kansas, city of Topeka out there. They had representatives in from their home office in Arkansas to celebrate the one-year anniversary of the opening of the fulfillment center. They also presented some checks to some local community organizations. Kellen was there receiving a check for $25,000 grant for the 2030 Club for their Coats for Kids program, I believe it's called. Capper Foundation got a sizable donation, as well as a new nonprofit called Be Filled for South Topeka, which is primarily focused on the Montera area, doing a lot of great things out there. So it was really nice to see some philanthropy out of a large corporation in Topeka, trying to make an impact, and a huge impact, honestly. That fulfillment center has exceeded basically every goal that they set in terms of capital expenditure, wages, number of employees, all those things. So it's a really great event. Good to see all that happening. Other than that, I don't really have much else to say, so we'll move on to our next item.
Item 7, executive session.
We do have a need for an executive session today. So I will move that we go into executive session for a period not to exceed 20 minutes for the following reason. For consultation with an attorney for the public body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, specifically to discuss legal budgetary requirements. No action is expected following this executive session. So it'd be 20 minutes. We'll go ahead and just start it now. So is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, seconded by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. We're in executive session. All right, we're back from executive session. No action was taken, so we're adjourned.